Have you ever noticed that your biggest mistakes weren't because you were weak, but because you were strong? Think about it. The promotion you blew because you got cocky. The relationship you ruined because things were too good. The night you lost everything. Not because you were losing, but because you were winning. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Progress is boring, but self-destruction is fun. And that says more about human nature than we'd like to admit. Let's go back to the Odyssey. Odysseus, the wily hero of Greek myth, outsmarts the Cyclops, Polyphemus. He's trapped in a cave. His men are being eaten alive, and yet he keeps his cool. He gives the Cyclops a false name, Nobody, blinds him, and escapes to his ship. It's one of the greatest tactical victories in all of literature. But then, sailing away, safe and free, Odysseus can't resist. He has to shout back, "Cyclops!" If anyone asks who blinded you, tell them it was Odysseus, son of Laertes, of Ithaca. And in that moment, he ruins everything. Polyphemus prays to his father Poseidon, god of the sea, who curses Odysseus with years of wandering. When you're young, you think, what a stupid mistake. How could the smartest man in Greece be so reckless? But as you get older, you realize this wasn't bad writing. This was human nature. Because it's not your weaknesses that destroy you. It's your strengths, twisted by temptation. Fast forward a few thousand years to a smoky poker room. You've been playing smart all night. Patient, careful, winning hand after hand. You double your money. You feel untouchable. And then comes the trap, running hot. The other players go all in. Your hand is decent, but not great. Objectively, you know the right move is to fold. But the blood is pounding in your ears. You don't want to fold. You want to win again. So you push all your chips in, grinning. For a few seconds, you feel invincible, alive, and then you lose it all. Looking back, you're furious at yourself. But deep down, you know the truth. The most fun you had all night wasn't winning. It was losing everything in a blaze of reckless glory. This is the paradox. Progress is safe, steady, responsible, but self-destruction, that feels like freedom. Sigmund Freud had a word for this, thanatos, the death drive. Freud believed humans aren't just driven by survival and pleasure. Deep down, we also have a compulsion toward chaos, destruction, even death. Not just the destruction of others, but of ourselves. Why? Because destruction is release. It's the undoing of all the tension we build up by trying so hard to survive, to succeed, to progress. That's why the self-destructive act feels almost euphoric. It's a return to zero, a relief from the pressure of constant striving. When Odysseus yells his name, when the poker player goes all in, when you sabotage the very thing you worked so hard to build, it's not because you're stupid, it's because the death drive is whispering. Wouldn't it feel good to let it all burn? Carl Jung took this further. He argued that inside every person lives the shadow, the repressed, unwanted parts of ourselves. All the impulses we deny, anger, lust, greed, arrogance. When we suppress them too long, they don't disappear. They grow stronger in the dark. And sometimes, self-destruction is just the shadow taking the wheel. Think of the workaholic who accidentally sabotages a project right before promotion, or the loyal partner who cheats not out of need, but out of some hidden craving for chaos. Jung would say, that's not weakness, that's your shadow demanding recognition. Self-destruction feels fun because it's the part of you you've been denying, finally breaking free. Friedrich Nietzsche, on the other hand, saw destruction as a kind of power. He said, one must still have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star. The will to power, the drive to overcome, to assert, to expand, doesn't always aim outward. Sometimes it turns inward. And when it does, self-destruction becomes intoxicating. Why? Because in those moments, you feel like a god. You're not being careful. You're not playing by rules. You're asserting raw will, even if it ruins you. That's why Odysseus couldn't stay silent, why gamblers go all in, why people throw away stability for a moment of fire, because for a fleeting second, destruction feels like transcendence. But Søren Kierkegaard would add one more layer. Progress demands responsibility, consistency, choosing one path and committing to it. And that terrifies people, because true freedom, the freedom to shape your life, means you can also fail. So instead of facing that responsibility, we choose sabotage. We burn down what we've built because, in a twisted way, it feels safer than the burden of maintaining it. Kierkegaard called this despair, the refusal to become who you could be. Self-destruction is fun because it feels like escape. Progress feels like prison. Here's the irony. Progress doesn't feel fun because it's slow, repetitive, consistent. It's the gym session when you'd rather drink, the early night when you'd rather party, the quiet no to temptation when every cell in your body wants to say yes. Progress is boring until it isn't, because one day those small, steady steps add up. And while self-destruction gives you the high of one wild night, progress gives you the freedom of a lifetime. So why does self-destruction feel better than progress? Because it's fast, it's fiery, it feels like being alive, but the fire always burns out. The question isn't whether you'll feel the thrill of self-destruction. You will. The question is, will you learn to redirect that fire into something that lasts? Because the same energy that tempts you to burn everything down can also build something eternal. What do you think? Is the thrill of self-destruction proof that we're wired for chaos? Or is it just misplaced strength? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if this gave you something to think about, hit subscribe, because here on MindWorks, we question everything.